Good afternoon. It's 4:02 p.m. I'm Jacob Pride, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. For those that are waiting on Zoom, we are waiting for our other supervisor to join us, which we expect soon. So I'm going to give him until 4:05 before we call our regular work session to order.
Brian Barrett checking in.
Hey, Brian, we'll get started in just a minute here. Robert's just going to grab some water.
I see when I signed in, there are 6 additional people.
Yep, we do have a few.
Yeah.
Hi, Brian. It's Ann Leegee.
And my goodness, Ann, how are you?
I'm still kicking.
I guess you are. I bet you are. Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you. And you're still in the village, right?
I'm still down here on Minnesink Avenue. I just retired, and now I have all this time on my hands again.
Oh, my goodness. And you just retired, huh?
Yes.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
Yes, I'm enjoying it.
Amen. Amen. And the family, everybody's okay in the family?
Thank goodness everybody is good. No one has had COVID. Knock on wood.
Oh, amen. Knock on wood. And are you calling in, Ann, I guess?
Yes, I'm on Zoom.
Okay, then that's where I am.
Okay, I'm going to mute now so they can get the meeting started. It's good to talk to you, Brian.
Yeah, and you too, Ann. Thank you.
Afternoon. It's now 4:06 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the regular work session portion of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors meeting. We have this meeting at 4 o'clock p.m. and the public hearing for the Shawnee Valley PRD is at 5 o'clock. So until then, because of the advertising we placed, we are going to be doing our regular municipal business. Members present include Vice Chair Robert Levenheim, Supervisor Brian Barrett via phone, myself, Chairman Jacob Pride, our Office Manager Julia Heilica, our Engineer Missy Pruger, and our Solicitor Ron Karasak. Our first order of business is the minutes. We have 3 sets before us: the December 14th, 2021 regular work session, December 28th, 2021 regular business meeting, and the January 3rd, 2022 regular business meeting that followed the reorganization. We will consider the reorganization meeting minutes at our next meeting. Do I hear a motion on the 3 minutes that we do have?
Motion to approve the 3 minutes.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Mr. Barrett. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those are approved. Next is public comments on the agenda. I'll remind those that are present via Zoom and in person, well, at least for Zoom, if you're not speaking, please have yourself muted. And, this section is for comments on what was included and what was not included. It is not necessarily comment on the item as we take that before we vote on each item. That said, are there any public comments on what was included or not included on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. We do not have any unfinished business, and we do not have any plans to act on. So, under new business, our first item is the consideration of ratifying Robert Lovenheim as our alternate COG delegate. This is something that we missed at our reorg meeting. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Barrett, I'll second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 That is the Pocono Mountain Council of Governments, so that's when each municipality sends a representative to, the county emergency center, and we discuss issues. Generally, they are related to, line paving or, salt bids, so that's that. Our next item up is, the consideration of Wellness Park Phase 2, change order number 1. Missy, who wants to talk about that one?
I can take this. We got the last bill from Finance Instruction. We're just, about $1,000 under budget on the whole project. And so that's what the change order is for. Different, expenses regarding to.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Do I hear a motion that we approve change order number 1?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Lovenheim, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrett. Any further questions or debate? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next is discussing Green Light Go agreement. Ron, I don't know if you had time to look at that yet. I know that there's been a couple of different drafts flying around from Chris May and PennDOT.
Julie has sent that to me to look at, but quite frankly, I just have not. With the other things that have been on our plate here for the township, I just didn't get there yet.
Understood. We can.
And I don't think it's pressing.
The deadline.
Right. I do not believe there is.
Well, I think
Right.
the deadline is to get it done so that we can go out to bid. I think Middle Smithfield already approved it, I remember, but what it comes down to is, at least my preference, and I think Julie's too, for using the Chris May version of it rather than doing our own. It seems to be
Let me
pretty
say,
clear.
Robert, I completely agree with that. And I looked at it, and it's covers everything, and it's to the point.
So I guess all we need is Ron's review, and then we can,
All right,
bring it up
when
for
you say the
passage.
Chris May version.
That is what was sent to you.
Yeah. Rather than looking at two, Ron, just look at
No,
that and see if it's okay.
The less I have to look at, the quicker I can do it, so.
That sounds
Today, along with another matter that Julie has sent to me, but today just got by me here.
We did get something, so that I saw within the last few days saying that the deadline was somewhere in May.
Oh, don't tell me that.
No, this was for,
Don't tell me it's May.
this was for, I think, final improvement and payment or something. So I think the assumption was that somewhere before that, we'll go out to bid, we'll get bids, and by that date, we'll be good to go. You remember that?
I haven't seen an email to that regard, but I will check back.
All right, it was somewhere in the last week that I read it.
Okay.
Okay. Fair, so we will discuss that, in the very near future. Our next item is discussing, two grant opportunities. One is the Monroe County Open Space Grant, run by the Monroe County Planning Commission, and the other is through the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau grant, through them. Julia, do you want to talk about Monroe County Open Space Grant, and I'll talk about the
Sure.
Visitors Bureau?
So this grant opened on January 3rd of 2022. We have until 3 p.m. on February 25th to apply. This is a grant that is a one-to-one match, up to $40,000, meaning we could go as high as an $80,000 project, $40,000 grant, $40,000 match by the township. In previous meetings, the board had discussed possibilities of extending the Vision Lost Trail, Mount Eagle Park cutting down trees. We talked with Fallon, and she said that a platform might be better on that standpoint. Also potentially redoing some of the, charcoal grills that we have in the park, benches or other updates like that. But I need direction from the board on if we want to apply, and if so, what we should apply for.
And when's the deadline again on that one? I'm sorry.
It is February 25th of 2022 by 3 p.m.
Well, just going back to our previous discussion and the reason that the Open Space Advisory Committee didn't want to create a viewpoint in Mount Neva Park because they were afraid the trees might grow up in 50 years. Perhaps we should apply for something like that with the Visitors Bureau. It's not much more, it's the same amount of money, the same kind of match, but it might fit better with the Visitors Bureau, who could see creating a viewpoint in the park on a public trail as something much more to their liking.
Well, if you want, I'll go over that briefly, because we can really consider them in concert, because they are fairly similar. The grant through the Pogo Mountains Visitors Bureau is open now, and proposals are due by March 31st, and the project must be completed by December 31st. So the end of the year. It's also 1-to-1, so 50% match is required, and they're going to be each project will be considered competitively based on criteria established by the Visitors Bureau. It's based on the availability of funds, so until they're expended, there's no set amount, but I'm told they have somewhere in the neighborhood of like $300,000. I would think that our application to this would be much, about the same as what our 1% for Nature application was, or, even if it was more, probably nothing more than like $10,000, something like that. They like before and after photos, and requests are going to be reviewed and applicants will be notified by April 30th. Their focus is on 4 things. 1 is improving quality of life within the community. 2nd, supporting indoor and outdoor recreation. 3rd is improve existing or develop new facilities. And 4 is to have a lasting impact on the community. So I think a lot of what we've been talking about matches for both, but we need to decide probably for both by the end of this month, by our regular meeting on the 26th.
That would give me plenty of time to put any documentation together.
Yeah, because it's fairly simple. It's like the same basic type of application as the others, as the 1% for Nature. I just think it's more money that's available.
Why don't we all just create our pet lists, put them together, and then look through them and see which one we like?
That wouldn't be bad if we each had a couple ideas and talked about that on the 26th. Go ahead, Brian.
It's a good idea.
But I think both of these, are relative. Like, I don't think either of these are. We're not applying to build a bridge with these, but I think that both of them are fairly small in comparison to the other grants, which means they will probably be slightly easier to manage. I would think whether it's charcoal grills or the benches here at Waterfront, or picnic tables, or anything along those lines. Chris Barrett presented this personally at the COG meeting late last month, and he seemed very enthused about this, and I think that they're certainly open to talking about our ideas before we would apply too. So I guess we can talk about that on the 26th. All right.
Does it seem that the Pocono Visitor Center has some more dollars?
Yeah, I think they're in the $300,000 range. Most of their revenue, like 70 to 75%, actually comes from the Monroe County hotel tax. So they're saying that ours is growing exponentially. So there's a lot of money available for it.
And the Monroe County Open Space grant also has approximately $300,000 available.
Huh. Wow, that's interesting. They both have it. Okay, that's great.
Holy cow, yeah. So, but
Yeah.
it's a dollar for dollar match, Jacob?
Right. Both
Okay.
are, yep.
Okay, yeah, I had a couple ideas. Maybe we'll share them and then sit down together at the end of the month.
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Our next item is,
Excuse me,
appointment.
this is Ann. I had a question. Is it okay to ask a question? I
Sure.
have my hand up. My question.
Ann Levy, sorry, I missed that.
My little hand there. Well, my
Go ahead,
question,
Ann, sorry.
my question is, based on what I just heard, is this sounding like you're going to apply for one or the other, but you cannot apply for both? That's my question.
Oh, no, we are able to apply for both, and it sounds like we will probably apply for both since they're from different buckets of money.
Thank you.
Yep, no worries. Thank you. I'm sorry I missed your hand up on Zoom there.
I'll lower it now.
That's okay. No worries.
Jacob?
Next up is an appointment to the Planning Commission for the term ending January 2nd, 2026. We had two applicants, sitting member Bruce Sandy, as well as a member of the community, Chris Bowers. We've heard from both gentlemen, and I believe that one or both of my colleagues are prepared to make a motion.
I'll make a motion, sure.
To appoint Mr. Bowers.
Okay, I would make a motion that we appoint Chris Bowers to the Planning Commission for a term ending, Julia could fill that in, I guess.
Yeah, January 2nd, 2026.
I'll second that
Okay.
motion.
Motion by Mr. Barrett,
Good.
second by Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
I think, Robert, we got a good person there. Not that either one of them were bad, but
I agree.
That's great. He was very enthused about being involved, so that's great. So we will send him his appointment letter. Great. Our next item is discussing the reopening of the 2022 budget. So we had already adopted the 2022 budget, but there's one item that I would like us to consider reopening the budget for due to the discussion that we had at our auditors meeting last week, where the salaries of elected officials was discussed. And though I think they greatly distorted what the line item actually was and what we asked for would not have been any different than what they were attempting to do before they did something else. So it's presently at $50,000, and that's line item 400-105, and I think to make sure that they do not say that we are going over what has been permitted, that line item go from $50,000 to $55,000. So the process is that we, one, would have to make a motion to reopen the budget. Two, would have to motion to approve changes to the budget, which is what I just described. And the third would then have to be a motion to advertise the budget, and that would be for January 18th, so we would be able to adopt the change on February 9th. This is not uncommon after the cycle, or the budget cycle after a municipal election. It's the only time that municipalities are able to reopen the budgets, and I'll say that other townships or boroughs in Monroe County have done the same. But I wanted to hear from my colleagues.
Is there a time limit when we have to reopen it?
The 2022 budget, if it's opened in a year after a municipal election, needs to be adopted no later than February 15th of 2022. It needs to be advertised at least 20 days before that time frame. So any decision you want to make needs to be made tonight, so we have enough time to get the advertisement to the Pocono Railroad.
So I'll make the motion that we reopen the budget.
I'll second that motion, Jacob.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim and a second by Mr. Barrett. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. subsequent to that, I would move that that the line item 400-105 be changed to read 55,000 as opposed to 50,000. Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Mr. Levenheim. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do I hear a motion to advertise the budget change in the Pocono Record so we can adopt it at our February 9th meeting?
Motion to advertise.
Motion.
The folks, so we can
Yep.
advertise the February 9th meeting.
Wow, that was quick. Motion by Mr. Levenheim, second by Mr. Barrett. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that part is...
Maybe we should speak slower here. We're gonna run out of things to do.
Well, next item up, because we do not have, anything else under new business, or actually, no, to correct myself, this copy of the agenda I have is missing one item, but the one that is online and posted on our door was in relation to an executive session, so I have to announce that the board today had an executive session from 3:35 to 3:50 p.m. in relation to COVID-19 policy. And no formal action is necessary at this time.
Jacob, could you repeat those times for me, please?
3:35 to 3:50. Next up is paying our bills. We have bills from the general fund in the amount of $130,287.69, and the highway fund in the amount of $9,548.01. The grand total of our obligations are $139,835.70, and they include legal and engineering bills, healthcare, one payroll, the payment for Pioneer Construction for phase 2 of the wellness park, and, well, other typical expenses, linen, supplies for Dempsey for the cleaning, half of our installment for the Monroe County Control Center, for the dispatch as necessary, as well as our annual sign-ups for PSATs. Does anyone have any questions on that? That said,
No, a comment maybe. Yep.
Oh, go ahead.
Jacob, a comment is simply that some of that money, especially in legal and engineering, would be somewhat reimbursable.
Correct.
So, just a comment to make in that respect.
Good point. That said, do I hear a motion that we pay our bills to the tune of $139,835.70?
Motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, we are done with that portion of the meeting. 34 minutes before the public hearing is set to start.
At this point, we can leave the meeting open, pause it, and reconvene at 5 o'clock.
You would not adjourn, you simply recess till 5.
Yeah, I'm going to move that we reconvene at 5 p.m. Do I hear a second? All right, motion by myself, second by Mr. Levenheim. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so
Okay,
I'm going to mute
so-
our... Go ahead, Brian.
No, I'm just going to say I will. I'll mute also, and then hopefully when I come back, I'll be intact as far as my system.
Sounds good. All right, I'm going to mute our meeting room phone as well.
Hey, Jacob,
Okay.
I have a question before you do that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, Jacob. It's Louise Troutman. Hey, I put a little note into your chat. I have a question about your grants. Can you match one against the other?
Technically, we can. I do think, well, we have to get both.
Yeah, we need to get those first, and we'd also need to check to make sure that it was okay.
Yeah. We can,
Some people don't go on.
I can ask Chris. The deadlines are about a month apart, though, too. So we'll double check, but that's a good question, Louise. Thanks.
Just a thought. I'm a big fan of that. All right, see
Sounds
ya.
good,
Bye.
we are too.
See ya.
All right, thank you.
Who, me? Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us. It is 5:02 p.m. So the regular work session of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors is now reconvened. I suspect most of you, if not all of you, are here for the conditional use application for the Shawnee Valley Plan Residential Development, tentative amended land use plan, and for the 2021 proposed amendments. In a moment, I'm going to turn this over to our solicitor, Ron Karasak, for the opening housekeeping and advertisements and such. Just before I do that, I want everyone to know that we're going to conduct this process in a fair manner so we can make sure everybody is heard. If you're on Zoom and you are called upon to speak, please do so. Project a little bit. Same goes for the people here in the meeting room. If you are not speaking and you are on Zoom, please mute yourself. This meeting is being streamed and archived, so as I'm sure most of you will be interested in seeing the video and or a transcript of this hearing. That said, I hope no one is under the impression, that we're going to be making a decision on the final part of this plan tonight. There's a lot of proceedings that are going to precede that, and this can't go tonight longer than 7:30, as we won't have a solicitor beyond then, and I don't feel comfortable conducting a public hearing absent a solicitor. That said, thank you for being here and being active citizens. Just so you know, my name is Jacob Pride. I'm the chair of the Board of Supervisors. Our vice chair is Robert Levenheim. He's here in person, and our third supervisor, Brian Barrett, is on via Zoom. This is our office manager, Julia Heilica, our engineer tonight, Missy Pruger from Bechet and James, and our solicitor, Ron Karasak. That said, Ron, please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As was stated, my name is Ron Karasak, and I'm the duly appointed solicitor to Smithfield Township. In that capacity, I need to make some introductory remarks about the public hearing this evening, and there will be some brief housekeeping, and we'll then get into some other items. Initially, my function as the Township Solicitor is to render legal advice to the Township Board of Supervisors. Sometimes it is thought that the Township Solicitor represents the residents of the Township, and unfortunately, that's not the charge that the legislature has given me. My charge is to represent the Board of Supervisors, and that's what I will do this evening. Because the Board this evening will sit as judges to hear this matter, and that's why this is a public hearing where there will be testimony taken under oath, where exhibits and documents will be presented, where the testimony and what is being said is being stenographically recorded by that gentleman to my left, so that this matter can be reviewed later if it needs to be. Now, the application before you is an amendment or a proposed amendment to the existing 2007 tentative planned residential development plan for Shawnee Valley. Those of you who may have been here for a while will remember that the original plan was approved back in 1988. One amendment was then approved in 2005. Another amendment was approved in 2007. There was also a settlement agreement entered into with the Shawnee Preservation Society. And any further amendments to the plan require a public hearing such as this. Standards for a public hearing, for this public hearing, can be found in the Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 27, Section 505, 25, and the subsections thereunder. And as to this amendment, the Board of Supervisors can approve the amendment as presented. They can approve the amendment with conditions that are added, which can be not even part of the development plan. They can be in addition to what's part of the development plan, or the amendment can be denied. Now, this is a public hearing, and I want to just spend a minute or two to explain the difference between a public hearing and a public meeting. A public meeting is done to discuss township business at a meeting open to the public, and if necessary, to take official action on that business. Is being made to pay the bill for something, etc. Public hearing is a little different. Even though it is a public meeting, it is still a formal meeting. The purpose of a public hearing is to inform the public of a certain project, so the public knows what is going to be occurring, what is the potential of the project, and then to allow that public provide public comment to the Board of Supervisors before they take official action. And as I indicated here, this is an amendment to an existing planned residential development plan. Now, under the rules for these hearings, they're a little different than a court hearing in the sense that the formal rules of evidence will not apply to this hearing, but irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious evidence would be excluded. And further, the township is free to reject even uncontradicted testimony if the supervisors find that it lacks credibility, and that even includes uncontradicted testimony by an expert. So they have that power at this hearing. Now, let me explain one other item, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some final housekeeping. Let me explain the difference between a party to proceedings and a public commentator. A party is more than just a public commentator who offers public comment for or against the project. A party has to have a direct, substantial, and immediate interest in the proceedings that is more than just the general interest that would be common to township citizens or township residents. For example, a party could be someone who lives near the project. In this case, the amended areas. And that amended areas could affect that person's right to use their property with respect to traffic or lighting or landscaping or buffering or something to that effect. So if a person here this evening wants to be a party and claim party status, township supervisors will need to inquire from you as to why you believe you are entitled to party status. The applicant will also be able to ask questions of you as to why you believe you're entitled to party status. And then at that point, the township board of supervisors will make a determination as to whether or not party status should be given to you. And again, this is more than just a public commentator. Public party status allows you to be an actual party now to the proceedings. Ask questions, you can review documents, but you can also be questioned, and you can also be cross-examined, and you could also be given documents to look at and which testify by other counsel. Keep that in mind. And if, in fact, someone wants to be given party status, and you're given party status, there's a form here that you'll need to sign that gives the township your full name and address, because it is important that we have that information in order to keep you apprised of what is proceeding in the case now that you're a party. Anyone else who wishes to speak will be considered a public commentator. Now note that the Pennsylvania open meeting law says that the only people who can comment on a project are either township residents or township taxpayers. That's it. People who are out of town, people who do not live in the township, people who do not pay taxes in the township cannot offer public comment at a hearing unless the township supervisors say okay. My experience here, and I've been here now for 12 years, that these township supervisors push and are like to want transparency and do not want to be obstreperous and don't want to be stonewalling, so they pretty much let anyone comment as long as it's reasonable and as long as it's not improper. And I don't see that changing tonight unless there's something that occurs that's either unforeseen or unexpected. Finally, these processes are reviewed by the planning commissions, and the Township Planning Commission has reviewed this amendment at a meeting maybe a month or so ago. I think it might have been sometime in November, maybe even longer. And they have recommended that the amendment be approved on 3 conditions. Number 1, that there be compliance with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation requirements, that there be compliance with the Township Engineer Review Letter of November 17, 2021, and I'll be introducing an updated copy of that letter as an exhibit here, and that the amendment does not violate the settlement agreement with the Shawnee Preservation Society. So those are the housekeeping items for this evening. Let me introduce into evidence the exhibits that have been pre-marked, and then we'll talk about whether anyone wants to be party status, and we'll get into those questions. So, all right, pre-marked before this evening or before now are 5 exhibits on behalf of the board, and pre-marked is board exhibit number 1, which is a copy of the proof of publication of the notice of this hearing that was advertised twice in the Pocono Record. Board exhibit number 2 is a copy of the notice that was posted on the property on January 4, 2022, signed by Mr. Wolf as the Township Zoning Officer. Board exhibit number 3 is the Boucher and James, Inc. Engineer Review Letter, engineer meaning John, I believe it's S. Tressler, I could be wrong. Yes, John, J-O-N-S. Tressler, comma, P-E and P-L-S. And that is a second review dated January 10, 2022. And this letter incorporates his earlier review letter of November 17, and then provides additional comments, again, as of yesterday. So it's pretty current. Board exhibit number 4 is a letter from Attorney Charles J. Vokes, DOGT, asking that supervisors accept his appearance on behalf of his clients, Q4 LP, successor to Depew Corporation LLC, E. Shawnee Inc., and Shawnee Square LP. And board exhibit number 5 is a precipice for appearance that has been filed by Attorney F. Andrew Wolf on behalf of the Shawnee Valley Owners Association, Inc. So those are the 5 board exhibits that have been pre-marked and have been produced, or at least made part of the record. I'm going to now formally motion that those exhibits be made part of the record. The record should reflect that I have given Mr. Hunter, the applicant, a copy of these exhibits. And I'm going to ask him whether he has any objections to saying. Objection? All right, that being said, no objection to the exhibits. They are made part of the record. And there we are. All right, now before we proceed, I see people standing. Do we need to, this doesn't have to be on the record, some chairs or something for them on the side or someplace, or what?
There's enough chairs, I would say at this point, though, it's probably at capacity.
There are some other, there's one up here, move some around on the side here. Yet. All right, we're back on the record. So everyone has a seat. Everyone is as comfortable as can be in this proceeding at this point. Any problems with the room, size of the room, people in the room, or anything to that effect? All right, let the record reflect there was no response to that, so we will proceed. Now, as I indicated earlier, there are procedures for party status. Let me go to at least to 2 initial people who have entered appearances and see if Mr. Hunter agrees that they can be added as parties, because if so, we'll get by those and then we'll get into individuals. So, Mr. Hunter, although you've not been sworn yet, I don't think it's necessary that we do that at this point because it's really not testimony as such, but we have Mr. Vogt who's entered his appearance for those various entities that were referenced in his letter, and I think you have the letter in front of you as B number Board Exhibit 4. Do you have any objection to having those parties and Mr. Vogt be entered as a party in this case?
No objection.
No objection, all right, so that takes care of that. And then we have, Attorney Wolf, who, again, you have that in front of you as Board Exhibit number 5, who's entered an appearance on behalf of the Shawnee Valley Owners Association, Inc. Do you have any objection to that group, being a party to this proceeding?
No, sir.
Okay, so those two are the only two that I have by way of actual entry of appearance. Now, that being said, is there anyone else here who wants to be made a formal party to this proceeding? All right, we'll just go around one at a time. All right, sir, you need to state your full name for the stenographer, please.
Good evening, Supervisors, Solicitor Karasak. My name is Anthony Giovannini Jr. I'm an associate attorney at Brockle and DeVito in Bethlehem. My office represents the Shawnee Preservation Society. I'm specifically present tonight on behalf of Attorney Leo DeVito and Lisa Pereira. Attorney DeVito is unable to attend due to an arbitration, and unfortunately, Attorney Pereira is unable to attend due to COVID.
All right, so hold on for 1 second, because maybe we can cut to the chase here. Mr. Hunter, do you have any objection to having Attorney Giovannini, and his client, the Shawnee Preservation Society, act as a party in this matter?
No objection.
You do not, all right, so then, Mr. Giovannini, if you just fill this out, sit there, and we're good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're welcome. Fill it out. Part of the record. Okay. Taking care of counsel. Now, who else are we have here? All right, so let's go to this gentleman here.
Yes, my name is Vincent Della Fera. I'm the president of the Shawnee Preservation Society. And I guess, Attorney Giovannini has already asked that we be, that the Shawnee Preservation Society be entered as a party. I'd also like to request that I personally be entered as a party.
Okay, and what would be your basis for being asked to be personally a party to this proceeding?
Well, because I'm the president of the Shawnee Preservation Society.
Well, but they're represented by counsel, so
Okay.
that doesn't allow you to, I'm sorry. It doesn't automatically make you a party. Your group is now a party. You're saying
Okay.
you want to personally be a party. What enables you to say, I should also be a party in addition to the group that my lawyer represents? And there may not be none. It's not a loaded question.
Right, I understand that. I'm a long-term resident. I've been a member of the Sun Mountain Recreation Society, which is Recreation Association, which is part of the Shawnee Valley Development. And I've been using their facilities for 9 years, and I feel strong connections.
All right, and in looking at some of the paperwork that I have here in front of me, and it's voluminous here, okay, just check one thing. There was a settlement agreement entered into with the Shawnee Preservation Society, original and then 2 amendments. The original on December 29, and I'm just looking here to see. Not 2020, I'm okay, we're not even there yet. How about 2009, okay? I'm seeing if you were, a signatory to that, but.
I was a signatory to it as a member of the Board of Supervisors at the time.
Okay. All right, so. Okay. All right, so, that being said, you heard what he had to say. Mr. Hunter, do you have any objections to him being a party to the proceeding?
Mr. Karasak, I'd like to point out, I believe in the settlement agreement, the the settlement agreement calls for communication regarding disputes or issues between the appellant, SPS, Smithfield Township, and the developer, be taken to the president of SPS. Under that, he is correct me to go ahead and say I have no objection. I'm saying that as president of SPS, Mr. Delafera is the person responsible for, receiving, issues. Parties of the SPS settlement agreement, therefore, we do not object.
Okay, fair enough, all right, that takes care of that, then, and
Spell your last name? D-E-L-L-A, and then another word, F as in Frank, E-R.
and there will be, appearance form for Mr. Delafero to sign. Do that in due course, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, that being said, let's move on. Who else on that side was there? Okay. All right, let's go to that young lady.
My name is Bridget Keating, and I live at 117 Knob Lane, which is directly, we'd be putting the three houses that they proposed to build would be in front of my house.
Okay. Give me a moment to catch up.
Spell your first and last name for me.
Bridgetkeating.
All right, Mr. Hunter, you heard what this young lady had to say with respect to where her property is in relationship to the Shawnee Valley PRD and or the proposed amendment. Do you have any objection to her being a party to this action?
I do not have any objection.
Fair enough. There's a form here I'm gonna ask you to sign and put in your information so we know how to contact you, please. All right, who do we have next? Mr. Carbone? Okay.
Go first.
Sure.
Amanda Carbone, C-A-R-B-O-N-E. I reside in the community very near to the project. I'm a member of Shawnee Preservation Society. I was involved with the prior settlement, which is important.
Okay.
Are they still making you take the minutes while you're also?
Oh, no, not here, I'm not taking
Okay,
minutes,
you
no.
don't have
At the planning commission, but not at this stage, no. We have that young man over there taking everything down verbatim, so. these are just my notes. All right, so again, Mr. Hunter, you heard what Ms. Carbone had to say. Do you have any objection to her being a party to this proceeding?
Ms. Carbone is also a resident, on Nod Lane. I have no objection.
Okay. All right, now you're all gonna have to give me a minute or two, because I'm gonna need more forms. So I'm gonna have to copy some.
I should have been objecting.
Not at all. You're making it go much more quickly. The last hearing that's all we did for 3 hours.
Can you look at the comments? I see that Mr. Bauer asked to be heard. Lee, as soon as Ron is back and ready, you can certainly be heard.
Is this a question how the people that are online are still out of form?
We can get it sent over to them either electronically or they can come in and fill it out. I'll ask Ron in a second. I think that's how that would be done.
There's a question about how you're gonna.
Oh my gosh.
Which part?
You probably addressed that to go through the room and then.
Yeah, as I said earlier, we're going to hear from people in the room physically first, and then we will go to Zoom. That way there's no overlap. Yeah, that's fine. You'll be able to listen to them more.
Okay, next, who do we have? Mr. Carbone?
My name is Tim Carbone. I live at 129 Knob Lane. I am also a member of SPS, and I was also a personal signing on the original settlement of 2007.
All right, and you're the husband of Martha? So that being said, do you have any objection to him being a party?
My comment, nothing personal, because I've known Tim for a long time, is it's redundant. No. Well, that's just my opinion. No.
You could be louder.
I'm sorry.
We can't hear in the back.
No.
You could be a little louder.
Can I take this off here?
Sure.
Yeah, for our mics.
Yeah.
I'd help. My question is, Mr. Carbone's represented by counsel, and Martha's already is a party to it. And is there a need to continue to have multiple people representing essentially the same point of view?
Yeah, that is probably a policy question, but I'll leave it to the supervisors as to whether you would want to make.
I'd have no objection.
Mr.
Mr. Carbone was a part of the original suit and the original land use matter.
So how about you, Mr. Logan?
No objection.
All right, so then,
No objection.
then we're gonna make him a party at this point.
No, I'm just, it's literally, how long do we? Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Know what you'll say.
All right. You want them here to get set? Fine, just put your name with Martha's form, and that's fine. We don't need another form. All right, any more on this side? Yes, okay. Gentleman in the back.
Dennis Ladd, L-A-D-D.
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't get that at all.
Ladd, L-A-D-D. I live at 123 Knob Lane. Purchased the property in 1991.
Okay, so again,
No objection.
no objection, okay? There's a form here, so you have to fill out. These forms that everyone is being given to fill out, please make sure you give them to me at the end of the hearing. They don't have to be done right this moment. But, those are his exhibits. They're not made part of the record yet, sir. Just fill out that form and give it to me.
Ron, just to be clear, people asked, if someone can't physically be here today, they can come in and sign a copy as long as we get it to you, correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All I need is to have, again, a name and address so we know who's gonna get what paperwork, that's
Yep.
all.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay. And how about that young lady there next to you?
Sharon Ladd, and I live at 123 Knob Lane. And my other half, forgot to say, we also own the lot behind it, which is adjacent, Sun Valley. Sun Mountain, sorry.
Shawnee Valley.
Shawnee Valley, Sun Mountain.
And excuse me, your husband's first name was what?
Dennis.
Dennis, all right, I'm sorry. All right, so,
I just
again,
put my name there.
well, we have the
Oh, sorry.
the couple again, as we did with the Carbones. Do you have any objection to her? Okay, so then, put them on. Okay. All right, anyone else on this side of the room? Okay, then, let's move over there. Is anyone over here on that side of the room? Come on up, sir.
My name is Peter Sobine. I live on the corner of River Road and Hollow Road, and also in my backyard is Shawnee Creek that this development drains into. I'm a member of SPS, and a retired professional engineer in 2 states, although not Pennsylvania. I'd like to be made a party to this meeting.
Good job.
Spell your last name for me, please.
Saubigene.
Okay, again, Mr. Hunter, you heard what Mr. Sobine had to say. Is there any objection to him being a party?
I'd like to ask questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Go. I'm remiss in understanding what the relationship is of your property to the PRD.
It's well downstream. I'm downstream,
Right.
mile or two, but I live on both Hollow Road and Shawnee Creek, that this PRD could impact traffic on one, flow and quality in the other. And I'm a member of SPS, and I'm a very concerned resident citizen.
Mr.
Sobine.
Thank you. Being represented by counsel already, I do object to being a direct party, because he is represented by counsel, and, the relationship of the PRD, people who live in roads nearby, that's extending a little beyond what sounds appropriate.
Gentlemen, you heard what was said here. Do you wish to make Mr. Sobine a party or not?
I would wish,
I would make him a party. Excuse me, Brian Barrett.
I feel that, there may be water quality issues here, which I think have already been solved, but they should be brought up here anyway, and I think, that's a good enough reason to make him a party.
All right, and, well, then Brian said yes, and you're... All right, well, then he's a party. Sir, you gotta fill out this form. Take your time, no need to rush. Thank you. All right, we have a back there, come on up.
Hi, I'm Joanne Morris. My address is 229 Open Haver Lane, off of Mount Snob Road.
Last name again, I didn't catch it.
Norris.
Okay. And your position is you should be a party because of that location.
Yeah, the influx of the traffic, Mosher's Knob is already horrendous. You're like this, going up it, going around the potholes. The road just can't take it. And I wanna see what's gonna happen here, because I've been a resident since 1980, and I've seen a lot come and go, and I just can't see more traffic on these roads, more than what it is. It's not gonna handle it.
All right.
Traffic, Hollow Road, and Mosher's Knob.
Mr. Hunter, you heard what the lady had to say. Do you have any objection to her being a party?
I have a question. I'm under the impression that the settlement agreement, limited traffic on Mosher's Knob so that there would be no traffic to any development that was up there except a few driveways that might connect to Mosher's, but everything else had to go down a new road on the front of the ski resort.
Road on, out to Mosher's Knob?
Just down the Hollow
Is it
Road.
on this picture here?
The stage 4 is what would be referred to related to Mosher's Knob Road. In the 2007 PRD, the main traffic for stage 4 was through a roadway that was proposed down through Shawnee, at the time, through Hollow Road. And that plan had just a minor access, so all the public traffic would come.
So what you're saying is there's a new road that was going to be built on the face of the ski area that came down to Hollow Road, but the traffic was not going to go onto Mosher's Knob Road.
That's correct.
It's a minor access fee.
You have to have fire department access.
Okay, fire
And
emergency, okay.
further, the sale of stages 2 and 3 to the National Park Service to serve 550 acres of land. All the driveways and roadways associated with the single-family residences that were part of that would have affected Motor Stop Road. They are part of what we're removing from the PRD with 2021 amendment.
Well, again, we don't necessarily need to get into the specifics. The question is whether or not this young lady should be made a party to this
I'm
proceeding.
concerned about what's happening around Sun Mountain Lake and all that as well. I mean, the wetlands, when I was here last night, they said we're taking wetlands from here and we're putting them here so you can create new ones. How do you remove wetlands and create wetlands? It just doesn't seem feasible, and I was just concerned about that over out by the lake, and
I think that can be addressed in public comment on this. I don't think we need to inquire about that in the party status process.
All right, so you're saying,
I think Ms. Morris's concerns will be heard during the public process.
well, she obviously has a right to public comment. We're talking about party status. So right now,
Yeah,
it's the position of the board not to grant her party status.
I would say no in this case.
Agreed. All right, so no party status then. Okay.
Excuse me, Brian Barrett. This individual, as the crow flies, is closer than you would believe. And I think that she should have.
What were you saying, please?
I believe that where these people live, the Norrises, are much closer as the crow flies than the most other people that are going to be involved in this. And what I say is that I think she should be granted party status.
Okay. Well, we have your vote for party status. Do we still have 2 for no party status?
Well, I mean, I didn't hear a sufficient reason, or at least that she said. If what Brian says is true, then maybe I'd reconsider, but I didn't hear her say that.
All right,
So,
well,
Closer as the crow flies to what?
Right next to stage 4.
Right
next to stage 4.
As the crow flies to the Shawnee, the PRD on Hollow Road.
But doesn't she live on Mosier's Knob?
Copenhagen.
No, not really.
I don't even know where
Right down is the Hollow Road, like we're right across like the firehouse.
They could walk down to the firehouse in 5 minutes.
I can't take down 2 people talking at once. If you're not given party status, you must accept that.
I'll change my objection, okay? I'll withdraw my objection.
So you want her to be given party status? Okay, well then there's a form that you need to sign.
I'll go on the record. All right. We need to be able to hear, can save the applause for later. I would put on the record that I would grant the request also, but please, if you do seek party status, be specific about your location. All right.
Is there anyone else? All right, so.
Well, I think on Zoom, we have at least a couple.
There's a couple, okay.
Mr. Stockbridge, would you like to, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Bill Stockbridge.
I didn't get that.
Bill Stockbridge.
Bill Stockbridge. Okay.
Bill, as in the dollar.
Bill.
And I live on 119 Knob Lane. So I'm pretty much right next to. I'm Bridget and Martha's neighbor.
Objection.
Okay, that's easy. Next.
Lee, did you want to speak to that? Lee, if you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and speak.
Roman.
Okay.
Ann Levy also has her hand up.
Yeah, Ann Levy, if you would like to speak now, that's fine, or seek party status now, that'd be fine. We'll come back to Lee later, or he can type a message and we can get a form to him.
We have Ann Levy.
Okay.
Lee, are you there? I don't know if you're frozen, but they were asking if you wanted to be party status.
My name's Elise
Can
Bauer.
you
Can I
hear
speak
me?
for my father? Oh, there he is. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to request party status.
Bauer, B-O-W-E-R.
And the basis for that would be what? I'm not sure if you heard me.
Yeah, Lee, do you
It's
want to say
breaking
why?
up. You're asking why?
Yeah.
My property borders, up behind, where some of the proposed amendments and changes might be occurring.
What is this street address? Moshe Knob Road.
408 Mosers Knob Road.
Okay. All right, and Mr. Hunter has said no objection, Mr. Bauer, so you're a party.
Thank you,
Okay,
Ted.
next. And Leachy, is she?
Yeah, Ann, did you want to speak? You're still able to, speak party status. If we don't hear from you, we can move on to Holly first.
Move on to the next.
Yes, please.
Can you
proceed,
hear me?
Dr. Cadwalader. Yes,
Can you
we
hear
can,
me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My concerns are similar to those that have been expressed by Tim and Martha. I'm a member of SPS, former president of SPS. I live on 181 Minnesink Avenue. The area is a huge drainage basin. So there are concerns about the way water runoff is going to be managed. It all flows downhill right here. And the other concern is traffic. Living on Minnesink Avenue, when the holidays come around, we know it's best not to even venture onto River Road or try to get onto River Road. So those are, in general, some of my primary concerns.
Okay, well, what's the basis for you wanting party status, however?
Well, I thought that I had clarified that by saying that I am a member of SPS and a former president. So I'm not sure how this is handled. Do all of the board of directors and current and prior presidents of SPS need to be named individually?
All right, Supervisor, well, let me ask Mr. Hunter first. Any objection to her?
I do object. I think that the questions raised are extremely important, valid questions. Traffic study, water quality, environmental quality are all pertinent to anybody in the water basin and in the general area, but I don't think that elevates to party status for every single person who's in Smithfield Township or in the area of Shawnee Valley. So I ask the supervisors their input on that. We will be answering the concerns, have answered the concerns, but not objection.
I'm not certain that she's close enough like the others that have been granted party status. I'd probably say no.
I say no as well. I think she's well represented by council.
All right, and Mr. Barrett, your position?
Position was to allow her.
To allow her, all right. You gentlemen still say no?
Correct.
All right, so then it's 2-1 and no party status. All right.
I lose by one vote again. Thank you.
Oh, man.
Hey, great line. Great line. Oh, man, yes.
Okay, Dr. Cadwalader?
Hello, my name is Holly Cadwallader. I'm a founding member and president of Shawnee Preservation Society and also a signatory on the 2007 amendment. And I would like to preserve my party status.
One moment, Mr. Hunter, because I want to just see something here.
Holly, can you spell your last name for us, please?
Yes, it's C as in cat, A, D as in David, W, A, L as in Larry, L as in Larry, A, D as in David, E, R.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I have noted here, Mr. Hunter, that Ms. Cadwallader, if that's how I pronounce it, I apologize if I have butchered it, is an actual party to the settlement agreement individually in addition to Shawnee Preservation Society, just as the Carbones were individual parties and Mr. Bauer was individual parties. So that being said, any objection to her being a party?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
My question is, where does Ms. Cadwallader reside now? It's my understanding she no longer lives in the area. How does our work in the area affect someone who's moved away? And I need to ask that.
Sure. Is that Ted? Ted, is that you?
There's Holly.
I don't know who's asking the question.
I'm asking where you live because I'd understood you'd moved away from Smithfield Township and Shawnee Valley and we're no longer here.
And I still don't know who's asking the question of me, though.
Ted, it's Ted Hunter.
It is Ted. Hi, Ted. Yeah, so essentially, I work in New England. I'm an independent educational consultant, and I travel for work. Currently, I live in New England. I also have a home in Pennsylvania. And in terms of the work that you all are doing, because I was a party in 2007, I just need to be aware and notified of that to either agree on it or not.
Ron, I would ask your formal judgment on this.
Well, she is a party to the settlement agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not a force supervisor.
Sure.
You gentlemen are the supervisors, but I don't see any harm in making her a party. Quite frankly, all of these individuals who are given party status doesn't elevate them to any special status. It only just says that we will let you know what's happening so that you can come to the next hearing or you can do something. And of course, enables them to ask questions. But sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for because they can now be asked questions, hard questions about what they're doing. So I don't have a problem in recommending that she be a party because she was a signatory to the settlement agreement individually. The fact that she may have moved out of the area, well, I agree with Mr. Hunter. I'm not quite sure how much weight to be given to her status, if you will, but as to the status itself, I would have no objection in saying make her a party.
Because of the confusion about this, I will not object, rather sort it out than move Holly from this today as a party, so no objection.
Okay, that makes sense. Easy, all right. Anyone else?
The rest of it out.
Anyone else on Zoom?
Alex texted me, trying to get on the party on Zoom. I don't know if she's on there again, Bauer.
Julia will check, but we don't have any messages from him. I presume this is Mr. Bauer's son.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I don't see anyone by the name of Ian Bauer on, but there are devices that he might be using.
Okay.
Well, let's see if we can get him to
Yeah,
identify.
you have to seek party status. You
Yeah,
can't be.
identify or respond, right. We're just not gonna say okay without him being able to let us know and respond and participate in the proceeding. And I understand he may be having difficulty with the technology, but that's something we can't control right now. I'm sure will be another hearing. We're already pushing 6 o'clock and we haven't even started testimony yet,
Right.
so.
I just got another text from Thursday, by the council.
No, people can unmute themselves to speak, otherwise the others would not have been able to. But if you could have him confirm by a message or something in the chat box, that's at least enough for us to know that he's seeking party status.
Can he raise his hand?
He could raise his hand or could, something like that.
Who is the person that you're asking? Because I didn't hear who you were asking for on, Martha's pretty in the distance, can't hear.
Ian Bauer.
Ian Bauer, if you're on, raise your hand or unmute.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Hello,
Okay.
this is Ian Bauer. Yes, I'm requesting party status, please. Thank you.
And the basis for that request?
So I reside with my father at 408 Mosher's Knob Road. That's the property, as you said, that is going to join where many of these changes will impact.
All right, Mr. Hunter, any objection to Mr. Ian Bauer being a part?
No objection, no objection.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes. Ron?
Could you please state your name and reason for why you're seeking party status?
Pam Barrett. I'm one of the founders of SPS. I live on Mosher's Knob Road. I'm one that's responsible for the 500 acres. When this was going on, I was very aware of what was going on. I've had multiple studies done through the Monroe County Planning Commission, traffic studies done of what would happen with all this traffic. I'm very concerned because Shawnee Church Road comes out on Hollow Road. I know probably more than anybody here what's going on, and I would like to have party status.
All right, Mr. Hunter, any objection to party status for Ms. Barrett?
Stop laughing. Who's laughing?
No objection.
Okay.
Her first name was what?
Pam.
R-C-A-R-R-T-T. Okay. Anyone else?
I just have a question, gentlemen. Is it possible to come into the township and take a look at the stuff?
Absolutely, it's available for public inspection.
Not offered to me when I came.
It has been, we advertised it, I'm not sure what you're referencing.
Never given any document or offered it to you.
We advertised that the materials available for this hearing were available for, I don't remember how many days in advance, but multiple people did come to look at it, including the plans and. Okay, all right.
All right, anyone else for party status? All right, so then what I have here are the following, and this is a recap. That the individuals who were given party status that are here in the meeting room are the Shawnee Preservation Society through Attorney Anthony Giovannini Jr., counsel for them, Mr. Vincent Della Fera, Bridget Keating, Martha Carbone, Tim Carbone, Dennis Ladd, Sharon Ladd, Peter Sauvigny, and Joanne Morris. The people that I have noted for party status that were via Zoom that need to complete forms and forward them to the township, because if you don't do that, I'm not gonna consider you a party. You must file these forms with the township. That's Mr. Bill Stockridge, Mr. Lee Bauer, Ms. Holly Cadwaller, again, I butchered it, so I apologize, Mr. Ian Bauer, and Ms. Pam Barrett. So that being said, is there anyone I may have missed? All right, so let's do,
Hold on one second.
I think you had my name wrong.
I have Joanne Morris.
And Chuck Norris.
Excuse me? Oh, Norris with an N.
Like Chuck Norris.
Got it. Okay.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, Ted, it's Tom. Can I just ask you a question before we go any further, just for my own clarification?
Who's
Tom
this?
Anderson is my business partner. Shawnee.
Oh, sorry, it's
And is on Zoom also.
Ted, I didn't think that this, the scope of this involved the stage 4 land. So I didn't know all the people who were lining up to chat about stage 4. I didn't think that was what we were covering.
So Tom, the amendment we're proposing does not have anything to do with stage 4. It doesn't change it and doesn't affect the SPS settlement agreement over stage 4. But because of the TRD as a whole, I don't think we can successfully object to it. I'd ask whether the TRD is.
Yeah, I would say,
testimony will go different.
yeah, Mr. Anderson, is that if people are here to comment about stage 4, and stage 4 has nothing to do with what the amendments are in front of you, or in front of the board. If you remember, during my introductory remarks, the board can not consider material that is irrelevant, not material, not probative, et cetera. So, although obviously I believe the supervisors would allow an individual or individuals to talk about stage 4, because that's just what they have done in the past, allow people to speak, I'm not sure how much weight will be given to that comment or testimony, because that's not what's before you.
All right. Well, I heard maybe 4 or 5 people, gaining status based on their addresses on Mosher's Knob Road. And I don't think that's what we're here to discuss.
Okay, well, fair enough, but they've been given party status, so we're off to the races with them, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Ron and Tom, and Ted, it says in that, all your, your presentation, if or somewhere in there, it says that any houses that are taken away can be placed in stage 4.
Right.
All right, well, you're getting into testimony, which I don't know, I have not
They
heard.
have nothing to do with each other, but they do. That's all I'm saying.
Well, all I know is you're talking about testimony that I haven't heard, and neither has the board.
Well, you haven't read the settlement then.
So, that's for the meeting today. It's not to be prejudged, that we don't prejudge things. He will present his case, the people who are parties will present their case, and then a decision will be made, so. All right, so in any event, so we're done. We've been working for about an hour here, and I know that doesn't seem very long, but for a stenographer who must be completely concentrating on what's occurring, that can be a bit strenuous. So I'm gonna ask, with the permission of the supervisors, to take just a simple 5-minute break to let the stenographer stretch his feet and do what needs to stretch his legs, do what he needs to do, if anything. And we will come back here at, I've got 6:03, so let's just make it 6:10.
Okay.
And we'll continue on at that point at where Mr. Hunter will then present his case at that time.
Okay. We will, mute the room mic at this point.
All right, so like Okay.
Yep.
Showtime.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna commence.
All right, we are back on the record. It's 6:12 PM. And we are going to turn the matter over to Mr. Hunter and/or his partner, Mr. Anderson, with respect to the application. Now understand that they will be sworn, and they will give sworn testimony just as the people who are parties will be sworn and must give sworn testimony. After that testimony is done, I will then ask the Board of Supervisors if they have any questions, and we will then have Mr. Hunter or Mr. Anderson answer those questions, and then we will go to the parties and see if the parties have any questions. And again, questions are questions. They're not a statement, they're not your position, they're not an argument. They will be questions. So don't be offended if in fact the board, through me, say that's not a question, move on, because we need to ask questions to the parties. And at the end, if you want to make an argument, have at it. You can argue all you want, but questions are different than arguments. So that being said, and all of you have been excellent this evening, okay? And I am very happy that it doesn't appear that you guys are eating each other's throats, which is good, because first of all, that young man over there can't take down two people yelling or arguing with one another, and more importantly, that's how business gets done in a good way. So, that being said, you may hear things that Mr. Hunter or Mr. Anderson have to say that you may like roll your eyes or say, oh boy. You know, again, in your head you can say that, just don't say it out loud because it's gonna confuse this record that's being created. And I'm sure that, exactly, you can do that in advance, so. All right, that being said, I'm gonna turn the case over to you, Mr. Hunter. It's your application, so you are free to present your case in whatever fashion you deem appropriate. Please keep your voice up so all the individuals in the room can hear you, especially if they want to ask questions of you later. They can't ask questions if they don't hear what you're saying. And that being said, you're on, sir.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I'm intimidated. Truth. Good evening. My name is Ted Hunter. I'm an architect, a real estate developer, with about 35 years experience in the industry. My business partner, Tom Anderson, is joining us via the Zoom call. Tom and I have worked together for about 20 years. From a history point of view, can everybody hear me okay still? Okay, thank you.
If you want to, you don't have to worry about putting your back to me. If you want to just turn yourself around and face everyone.
Or sit on this side of the desk.
There you go. Yeah. You can sit over here. You're not going to offend me with your back. If you want to sit here and talk forward, that's fine.
I'm more comfortable.
It's easier for him to control the computer from there, so let's.
I'm going to stay this way. Thanks for the suggestion.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Tom and I have worked together for about 20 years. 15 years we were together at Wyndham Worldwide, where we were senior executives in the hospitality industry. We were responsible for real estate development throughout the United States, as well as some international work. We began working here in Shawnee back in about 2005, when we were part of Wyndham. Roughly 5-6 years ago, we both left that company. Since then, we are working in a home building company that is in Tennessee, developing and building new homes in a community that's about 14,000 acres, about 1,200 left being developed. We build about 30 or 40 homes a year in that development. It's a very mature community. It's a nature-oriented community there in Tennessee. It's in central Tennessee between Nashville and Knoxville. In that business, we develop about 30 or 40 homes a year. Again, nature-oriented community. There's golf and recreation, there's boating, streams, there's an enormous, trails system throughout the community, run by the Property Owners Association and the Trails Committees there. We're, partners in the development of the Shawnee Valley PRD now, through a transaction where Wyndham sold that to us as a business. The team behind us, dealing with a lot of the concerns that you guys all have, is probably one of the best in this region. To start with, the planner is a company called URDC, Urban Research and Development Corporation. They've worked on this project since it began in the 1980s. They are responsible for how to develop the land, how to fit the components together, what can go where. Next on the list, the stormwater is a company called Eric. They're responsible for stormwater management. So the gentleman who's TE, you're concerned about stormwater. Others in the room have concern about floodwater and erosion control. That firm has been working for years and has gotten all of the permits and approvals for that work. Penn's Trail is environmental and wetlands management. There's about 1/4 acre of wetland involved in the construction of the project. Out of the 165 acres of development that we're talking about in stage 1 of B, there's a small section of 6 stream crossings that we work through the Army Corps of Engineers and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. And those are mitigated, and the studies of that are through Penn's Trail Environmental and Wetlands. Wildlife habitats was a specialist by the name of Amy Green, and there were some subspecialists. There was a specific bog turtle specialist, for example, to determine where the habitats are. There are no bog turtles on our property. There are bog turtles upstream from us in what we see as the Rush property. And that's the firm that managed all of the analysis to determine where the turtle habitat was and what suitable habitat there was, and some of the expansion of their habitat that we're going to be building for that community. Because literally you do some improvement to help the habitat during the development process. Gibler Engineering manages the design and the engineering and the maintenance process for the 2 dams on the property, the Shawnee Lake Dam and the Sun Mountain Dam. Chuck Gibler, he's a PhD in the business. And traffic planning and design, TPD, has done the traffic analysis and works on the intersections, the highway occupancy permits, and those types of businesses. Despite all of that's been said, I'm going to present the case that what we're talking about today is relatively positive to the community and not really a big impact to the community. The plan as it exists today has been around, it's not new. The plan is the Shawnee Valley, the PRD has been around since it was amended, as Mr. Karasak said, in 2005 and 2007. The current plan that is approved by all agencies, all governmental agencies, SPS settlement, all of the governmental agencies have approved, and the 2007 plan is what's in effect. Existing neighborhoods of Woodland Village, Oakdale, and a portion of North Slope, all parts of stage 1 of this development. What we're talking about really is from stage 2, and a couple of details in stage 2, but the list of changes is here. I know it's hard to see. I will end up showing you a larger plan, so bear with me. Plan that's in the upper right here is the 2007 plan as it is officially legally approved today. In that plan, you're looking at Shawnee Valley Drive right here, Hollow Road right here, the lakes, Mosier's Knob Road running up here, the hill right here. This is called stage 4. This was called stage 2 and 3, and this was all stage 1. Lower right corner is the amendment to the plan that proposed 2021 amended tentative plan. Major changes are largely to implement and document this. Okay, the first thing to change is alluded to. In 2014, Tom and I, as Wyndham, were on the other side of the equation, working with SPS members to sell 550 acres of land that used to be developed as single-family homes and townhouses, known as stage 2 and 3. That 550 acres of land runs all the way down to Shawnee Valley Drive and straddled Mosher's Knob Lane. In that, there were about 250 homes in that were removed. So this green area now, which is still part of the PRD, is now green open space permanent conservation. So we're showing that plan so that it gets recorded and it's on books. It's no longer just a settlement agreement. It becomes the public record and the approved plan. The second change is along the lakes, which are right here. This is my hand. This is Sun Mountain Lake, Shawnee Lake.
Let me, I'll do my level best, but Ted, you have copies that you can give to people at some point, right? Ted has some copies as well.
I don't have this many copies, but there's 3 pages each, so share. So they're separated. So this is my presentation, these 3 pages. I don't have enough to cover everybody in the room. You want to make
Ted,
those?
if you would like to retain, we can make copies here for the.
No, not right. I do want to, I need to back up on, to make some things in the record. Should I do that now?
Well, again, if you're referencing this document, you should make this part of the record in some fashion.
I am.
Whatever other housekeeping you want to do, let's do it now, so this way don't
distract me.
Yeah, we're not distracted with it. So that being said, go right ahead, dude.
On my list that I gave to you, it's item 13, the township presentation. It's this presentation.
So let's make sure the stenographer knows that. You have given the stenographer a sort of,
I need a copy of this list.
Okay, so, and looking at that list, you're gonna be referring to item number 13?
Correct.
Okay, so, and that's this document to which we are looking at right now.
If it's okay, I'm gonna go through the presentation and then come back and set it.
Okay, that's fine. You do, again, it's your case. You present it any way you want. I just want to make sure that we have all of the correct documentation, because I don't want to be in a situation where something was not presented and that could be an issue. So go ahead.
In between the 2 lakes is Mosher Knob, is Knob Lane. And Knob Lane is a gravel track with 5 homes that have been built. It was subdivided in the 1930s, and it is right in here. But one of the provisions in the settlement agreement was that land around Knob Lane, right here, and on the other side of Shawnee Lake, right here, we're extending buffers. So there are a couple of different buffers. This is the diagram that's in the settlement agreement, which Martha has brought. The buffers provided a setback from the water's edge of 100 feet for vegetation to be maintained, and another 20 feet for setting back buildings. So that buffer is right here on the other side of Shawnee Lake. This originally, where this green area is shown here, it's hard to see on this drawing, and I apologize, but that area right there, where Mosher's Knob Road was designed and currently is technically legally approved for 33 zero-lot line homes. That was a concern for the residents of 33 zero-lot line homes. We're in the are in the 2007 plan as it stands today. There's the plan that's approved, remember. Those homes are removed in our amendment. In the 2021 amendment, we are acknowledging and putting in the buffer of those homes. This buffer on the other side of the lake, this buffer I referred to before, required us to move back or eliminate the footprint of 4 buildings right here along this edge. And that's addressed in the narrative and addressed in this description right here, where we talk about the fact that those townhouse units that were in that buffer have to be shifted out. The third part requires an amendment to the SPS agreement. This is the connection, these 2 pieces right here are, I think, what has been concerning residents the most. The first one, Lakeside Drive, is the name that was given to a new road connection from Shawnee Valley Drive that comes through the Stage 1 development and is built across the Sun Mountain Dam and connects to Hollow Road right at this point, roughly 150 feet or so north of the existing Camp Sun Mountain driveway. That's approved in the 2007 plan. It's approved in all of the environmental permits. It's approved in the dam safety. The only thing was that during the negotiations for the settlement agreement, the Nod Lane concerns and the SPS concerns were hoping to relocate it. So in the settlement agreement, the intent was to move and create the crossing, which is required for fire and life safety. It was intended to move it down to the lower dam and make it a 1-lane, 1-way, emergency-only roadway. What we have found, we recognized and put into our documents that we put into our application, that we recognize that requires an amendment with the SPS settlement agreement. The SPS settlement agreement said we're supposed to move the road from here, move it to here. We need an amendment to the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement, by the way, is a 3-party agreement. It was SPS filing suit against Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors, I believe, to be correct, and us as Wyndham as a developer at the time, SDI at the time. So we've known from the beginning that we need to come together with SPS, resolve an amendment for this issue. I'll come back to that and explain more in detail. The second issue, which has been key, and we recognized from the beginning, we found that there are the home lots in Knob Lane, and it turned out that during the research of the acquisition from Wyndham selling to Tom and me, that there were separate tax ID parcels, separate individual already subdivided lots that were subdivided in the 1930s, the same lots that you folks live on, were subdivided in the 1930s. Nobody knew that, at least from our side, nobody knew that at the time when this buffer was agreed to. So we are asking for consideration of building on 3 of the 5 individual home lots that are there, building a single-family house there. The difference between the 2 plans is that the development acreage is reduced massively. The stream crossings are reduced from there originally were 14 more stream crossings to happen. Now there's only 6 stream crossings, which is a big deal with the Army Corps of Engineers. The road miles is obviously reduced because none of this roadway is built. The open space is increased. All we're doing is we are trying to reserve, because we don't know as the PRD is a long-lasting document. It's a plan that obviously plans like this take years to mature. We do want to be able to reinstate residential units if we figure out places where the land and the approvals could be had. We aren't proposing any replacement today because we don't have a plan. We do not come here without a plan, but we want to be able to just put for the record to reserve that. I'm going to suggest now that I want to put for the record our application information. Ron? Okay, go ahead. Item number 1 was the cover letter for our application. Item number 2 was the findings of fact under the PRD regulations of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Code. Item number 3 is a historical record, which is the cumulative findings of fact from 1988 until today. It's the record submitted for each, the original PRD and each of the 2 amendments, 05 and 07. That's item 3. Item 4 is the 2021 amended tentative, I'm sorry, the 2007, correct that, the 2007 approved amended tentative plan. In other words, the drawing was in upper right of my presentation. That's exhibit, that's item 4 in our testimony today. Item 5 is the proposed amendment 2021 PRD tentative plan. Item 6 is the 2021 PRD plan approval summary charts. Item 7 is the settlement agreement, the SPS settlement agreement, with all of the appendices. We included that in our application because it was needed to reference. Item 8 is the First Amendment to the settlement agreement. For the benefit of the audience, the First Amendment was needed back in the time when we were negotiating to sell to the National Park Service. There was a technical issue that the National Park Service required to change. And it was an amendment that was signed at the time by SPS and the developer. It was probably erroneously not signed by the at that time because it was 3 parties. The amendment was signed. There was a Second Amendment. Second Amendment similarly corrected another issue with National Parks transaction. And both of those amendments were then submitted to Monroe County Court and recorded as per the provisions of the original settlement agreement. Item 10 on the list was the proposed rough draft that we presented to SPS on June 10th, 2021. We sought meetings with SPS because we knew that we needed to talk about the amendment for the road and the 3 houses. And we began reaching out to the president of SPS at the time, Vince, and other members of SPS around March. June 10th of last year, we met at a house that we had renovated at the corner of Fritchie Road and Hollow Road. And we had a lengthy meeting where we presented issues, these 2 outstanding concerns about the amendment we wanted to submit. We presented the 3rd amendment to the SPS settlement agreement at that time, that proposed draft, in anticipation of having a dialogue and comment back from SPS at the time. Unfortunately, we never did get any response, but that's for the record, item 10. Item 11 on my list is a letter from the Shawnee Fire Company stating their preference between the 2 locations of the road that's required to connect the Hollow Road. And of the 2 locations, the fire company, I met with them in June, I believe. Actually, strike that, I don't remember when I met. I met them in 2021. I met them in 2021, and as a result of that meeting, they've issued their letter indicating the preference for the Camp Sun Mountain location of a 2-lane road over a proposed location at the Shawnee Lake Dam. Item 13 is the handout that we covered a minute ago. Item 14, come back to that. Okay, I'm gonna stop with exhibits for a moment and move on with other things. On the screen here for quite a while now is, again, it's a lot of concerns that you guys have. Pennsylvania has, and the federal government combined have very comprehensive, arduous, difficult environmental and requirements and regulations and processes. Each one of these permits and approvals applies to the 2007 plan and the working drawings for that 2007 plan. And so concerns for stormwater management, stream crossings, or taking of natural habitat, wildlife concerns, or wetlands and wetland mitigation. Each one of these permits has been addressed. It's taken years to align all of the permits, to adjust the plan. We have removed units to comply with setbacks from wetland areas, any other things of that sort. So I cite here in this part of our presentation that extensive list of approvals that we have. The approval for stage 1B that we are specifically focused on right now is for 256 residential units. This accounts for removing or displacing the 28 units, the 26 units of townhouses for the buffer on Shawnee Lake for the SBS settlement agreement, so that's been subtracted and it's not here. And 72 single-family homes and 164 townhouses are in the approved plans. So let's get to the issues. First issue is the drawing is called Lakeside Drive. It's been named Lakeside Drive for working purposes for quite some time. Lakeside Drive is actually between Shawnee Valley Drive to Hollow Road. And in the drawing, again, this is the existing Oakdale, Woodland Village, a little bit of north slope right here, Shawnee Valley Drive, Hollow Road. Stage 1B plan since 2007, even this plan, has had an important connector road that provides community with two means of access for these new homes and provides fire department life safety access for all of the emergency services, serve not only the new community, but the existing community.
Let's let Mr. Hunter make his presentation. Afterwards, people in starting status will be entitled to ask questions.
Again, this road is in all of the permits and approvals that I referenced before, including all the stormwater management, all the wetland mitigation, et cetera. What we found is that we didn't know it at the time the settlement agreement was done, but PennDOT is not allowing any other access point for us to go onto Hollow Road. They're not concerned with whether it's single lane, two lane. They're concerned about the sight lines, curvatures, and elevations of the Hollow Road where it would have to come out across this dam. And that this is the only place that they are allowing us to access to provide for. We can't get the permit from PennDOT. We have a letter, which is part of I want to check something. Item 15 on my list is a letter I've drafted and written and sent to Smithfield Township, 11/29, which discusses the history and the issue around this roadway, around PennDOT's inability to provide us with a permit. And I want to refer to item 16 on my list, which is the first response to, Melissa Kruger's and John Tressler's review of our project. They're the engineers. At the planning hearing that we had in November, we received a letter with a number of comments, and we answered those comments. And one of the documents we returned to respond to Dr. James' letter was our consultant's efforts with the PennDOT about not being able to get that permit. Otherwise, this roadway is in all the DEP, all the Monroe County Conservation District, all the Army Corps of Engineers Joint 105. The fire company has expressed their opinion. It was approved in the 2007 plan, but that's up to the township to continue with that approval or tell us we can't keep that approval. And then it's also been included in information with dam safety and so on. We're concerned, and it's been brought to our attention, that these 240 households, all driving on Shawnee Valley Drive, there's a burden of traffic that this road connecting was intended to put it all in one place. The road between Shawnee Valley Drive and Hollow Road allows the new residents ways to go out of their homes instead of all Shawnee Valley Drive. And people on Shawnee Valley Drive likewise have the ability to get to Hollow Road in a more convenient way than going down to the ski. That's part of what needs to be addressed. The third point is that this dam was engineered. You can see a picture of the dam here and a picture of the dam here. That's the Sun Mountain Dam. This is over 30 feet across the crest because when it was conceived years ago and reconstructed, it was constructed for a 2-lane road. The bridge abutments here are roughly 55 feet apart. They are reinforced with bearing plates that are with bearing circuits. I shouldn't say the plates aren't in yet. That allow for a very simple span over the spillway here. It is intended for this 2-lane road. We did some investigation before we found out PennDOT was all it was. We were down the path of trying to figure out how to make the 1-lane road work here. And what we found was that that's almost, it's nearly impossible. There are wetlands just below this dam right here that we're concerned. It's not wide enough, so the dam crest would have to be widened even for a single lane. The bridge span is actually 2 spans because there's an old dam and a new dam. It's some 160 feet of span. The dam itself might not actually withstand the weight of the new foundations. It just turned out to be nearly infeasible. Anything with enough money you can do, but it's outrageous. The only obstacle to this issue is working, the fact the SPS settlement agreement specifically says this road is to be relocated to the downstream location. Otherwise, it's all approved. Again, we sought to meet with SPS June of 2021. I need a drink of water, excuse me. The other controversial issue, which to some extent has been misunderstood, is regarding the lots that are on Knob Lane. And we heard they're all residents that are parties here, so I think that's everybody. I think all 5 homeowners are represented, right? Okay, which is frankly good. This is Shawnee Lake right here. That's where the dam originally, that's viewed from the dam. There used to be a gas station at that spot along the lake edge. And this is the far shore of Shawnee Lake where the buffer is going to be now. You see a clubhouse right there. In the background are the Knob Lane homes that were built. This is hard to pin down, but it's in the 1930s, I'd say. Because these homes and the home lots were created in a subdivision that was planned in that area in, around the 1930s. The next photograph right here shows the corner of Hollow Road, and this is Knob Lane coming off to the right, to the right. These trees right here are on the third lot that we own. So my partner and I own the first lot here. The second lot is right about there, and there's a third lot line, which is right here. And there's a drainage ditch from Camp Sun Mountain that goes through that lot. Behind that is a fourth lot, and then the fifth lot is probably that house. I don't know which of the neighbors is in that house. And they are not treed, they're not wet, they're not part of the environmental permits or setbacks from the lake. They're actually, if you look at all of what's in our phase 1B of Shawnee Valley, these are the only clear and buildable lots. The utilities are right here in the street. We would have a water well for each. I think each of those homes is on a water well. So we would have a water well, but sanitary sewer could connect out here. And the way this came about, so what we didn't know about it. We literally didn't know they were there. We deleted about 300 homes from the plans. Cut and cut and cut. We've never asked for a house back, as I recall. So we thought it was a reasonable idea that we could take this land that's already cleared, these two lots here and the one that's on the other side of the trees, and build 3 houses. This would be the front corner house. This is the middle lot. We'd skip the third lot. There's a fourth house just tucked back in there. And we thought it was a very reasonable thing for a multitude of reasons. We literally didn't know those lots existed when the settlement agreement was being discussed because they were shown as tax ID parcels, but in the PRD, it was just a big space. There were no plans, there was nothing. It just was a vacant, nothing was shown there. It was only when we started getting information from Wyndham and they said, well, it's separate parcels. I know I work for Wyndham, but it's not the legal department. Okay? And that's when we found out that these lots were subdivided in the 1930s. When I actually called the zoning officer, the first answer I got is that's R1. You can just need a building permit and go vertical, which was a mistake. I don't want to throw Ken in there, but the reality is we know that we need to get the SPS settlement agreement amended if we are to put a house on that lot. These are the existing houses they've been building, 1912, 1925, or whatever, up to the most recent one's 1999, and we're just hoping to get permission to add 3 more. We also elected not to build on 2 of the lots. The one lot has a drainage channel. It's not that we couldn't relocate the drainage channel when we blocked that with not a significant water issue. Like it's better to leave the trees and make our houses nicer, so we thought we'd leave that because it was better, more desirable to buy, literally. And then the other one, I forget the name of the people in the back, Lads. They have that one lot that's on the other side of Knob Lane, the right-hand side as we're looking at it here. And we have another lot, and it's got trees on it, it's not cleared, so we just proposed to leave that. This is a statement that I'm making, not everybody will agree to this, but given that it was cleared land already, and we're not protecting the trees, we're not protecting wetlands, we're not protecting those types of environments, it was almost an oversight to my thinking that this was included as a buffer, because it's not buffering from major development or new roadways or any of those types of things. Again, the only obstacle is the SPS settlement agreement. We do recognize that building that house requires amending the settlement agreement. This slide, I apologize, is not in the handout because I did it literally this morning. Didn't have time to print it. And I would like to enter the slide into the record called Update Since Planning Commission Recommendation for Conditional Approval. That title. I don't know what the label is, Ron. It's not on my list.
Oh, we can add that because we're going to need to address all of these exhibits and how the parties can look at them and ask you questions about them, so just continue on.
This is outside.
And we'll figure it out.
On November 17th, the day before the planning commission hearing, we received a copy of the Boucher and James Township Engineers Review Letter. That letter brought up several questions and concerns, and we did respond with a letter dated January 5th in an effort to put on the table our replies to those answers. That is the item that is on my list. Is 16 is on the list. And what that does is it's telling, we also recognize a couple of issues from that and another thing. We have actually proposed to amend the 2021 PRD drawing that we submitted in September to reflect a couple of corrections and improvements for clarity. I will show that in a minute. We also revised the comparison chart for clarity. Again, Boucher and James pointed out a question. We have proposed to show you that. We have our Smithfield annual update. Every year in the state of Pennsylvania municipal code requires the status of planned development to be updated to supervisors, township. That has not been missed since 1989. And we thought when we applied in late September for this hearing that we would address the scheduling issue as part of this amendment. But what happened is it just got delayed, so we sent a quick letter, and the annual update was granted by the supervisors on December 28th. We received a letter, township solicitors provided to us a copy of a letter from a legal firm, Bro, how do you pronounce that? Thank you. And DeVito issued a letter to the township dated 12/14, which was a cover letter to a list of concerns that Martha Carbone wrote. And this is the first communication that we've gotten back, other than knowing that people objected. This is his first chance to say, what are the objections? What are the facts and concerns? So we received that. I issued a dated January 5th, which I copied the Rogel and DeVito firm and the township on to respond to the letters. I want to point out a couple of the things that Martha picked up. We have no issue with and agree that would have been something if we'd sat together and talked, we would have been able to resolve that and clarify. I'll show you one of those as an example. But we also acknowledge and have said since March, we needed to resolve a third amendment. I have addressed a letter to the township, which is dated 11/29. I'll have to find where that is because I know we submitted it to you, Ron. Oh, excuse me. Back to the Rogel and DeVito letter. That's item 17 on my list, I believe. Item 17 on the list. We have a letter that we want to enter into the record dated 11/29/2021 to Smithfield Township, to the solicitor and the board of supervisors, addressing everything we've done with regard to the Hollow Road intersection, the fact that the approval isn't granted, and in that there's a condition about what happens if we can't get that approval, and I want that to put into the record. And then finally, I'm going to of information. Look, people have good intentions. For the most part, people have good intentions. But without causing this misunderstanding leads to bad information. Some bad information has been coming around. So I became aware of that, a couple of days ago. And it became something that I thought we should share with the community. Part of it. We need to share with the community what we agree with, what is correct fact, right? As well as issues that were misinterpretations or misunderstandings. That is my point of view.
I don't think it's on the same page.
No. So I want to provide that.
If you're not speaking, please mute yourself on Zoom and let's let Mr. Hunter conclude.
The illustration you see here is item 18 on my list. To distract the audience with that too much.
Or you can continue.
This is the revisions we made to the document as a result of the letters from the engineer and the letters from the attorney. We clarified the boundary line that exists between the National Parks ownership, which is this tract here, the line right there, which was on our drawing but wasn't cleared, and we retained the ownership of this 13-acre portion of it. That was in the engineer's letters. On this side, the illustration said area to be redesigned, but the building still showed in that little edge right there, the setback area. It wasn't a very clear illustration on our part. I take ownership of that. We have since corrected and shown that there's no buildings in that setback because they can't be. That's the SBS settlement. We weren't asking to change that. We were keeping that. What we don't know is what happens to the units that are allowed. Where do they go? Do the buildings, do they get put inside the existing footprints, or do we shift the design? But we corrected that to make sure, and we agreed with Martha Carbone on the clarity of that issue. We are showing, let's see, I also highlighted so it was easier to see because the old drawings didn't make the Lakeview Drive connection very clear at all. So we put that back, Lakeview Drive. And we updated the notes here to reflect those types of improvements to the illustration. Item 19 is the blow-up of the summary chart that's on this drawing, submitted separately, because obviously this is like eye doctor chart. So at the end of the day, what we're asking for is to implement the SPS settlement agreement that was done in 2009, showing you that we removed almost 300 units of development. The only controversial spot is this piece of road that's about 400 feet away from these residents here, and building a house on those 3 lots. Otherwise, it's memorializing the things that were in the SPS settlement agreement. There is nothing that we're proposing here for stage 4. It's not even a subject. It's guided by and governed by the SPS settlement agreement. We have no plans yet to change. We don't know any change to be made up here, and it's not the subject of this amendment. But I've listed. Say that probably summarizes where we are.
Just some notes here, Mr. Mayor. So you said the bottom line, or so to speak, is that it removes the 300 homes. There's the road connection as part of that SPS. And what was the other one?
So, I would spell out 4 things, and I'll go back.
All right, well, that's fine then.
I'll go back to this slide because it's easier for me to remember.
Okay, shoot.
This slide, we are showing the conservation open space from the SPS settlement agreement of 550 acres. We are showing the buffers expanded around the Knob Lane and Shawnee Lake area. We are asking to retain the approved Lakeview Drive, because remember, that is in all designs, it is in the PRD already. We're not adding it, it's already there. We are being asked to take it out, and we're asking to not take it out, subject to a third amendment. And we're asking for an amendment to the PRD, to the SPS settlement agreement to build 3 homes off previously cleared lots that were subdivided in the 1930s. Those 2 things are the SPS settlement agreement discussion.
And this would be part of your item 13?
The slide here is part of there's the 13th.
Is item 13 on the list?
Okay.
All right. So, first order of business, I think, before we ask Mr. Hunter any questions is, how do you want to handle his exhibits? Obviously, he will motion his exhibits in at the close of his case, but the board and/or the parties will need to be able to look at those items in order to be able to intelligently ask any questions about them. Now, obviously, that packet is this thick, so do we want to have Mr. Hunter present that packet to the township electronically so that you have it and you can provide it to any parties who want to look at it? I think that's the only fair way.
I think that,
and I don't know, until that occurs, whether you can even take any more testimony or ask any questions, because you don't have it in front of you, you can't be intelligent about what you're asking. Now, under your ordinance, the second hearing, or all the hearings in this matter, have to be done within 60 days from today.
right,
So it's not like they're gonna be spread out over months and months. They have to be done within a couple of months. So the question is, knowing that we need to have those exhibits copied for review by the parties and/or review by the supervisors, do you want to, at this point, recess the meeting to another day, or the hearing to another day, in order to allow these exhibits to be exchanged and reviewed, so that we come back and now everyone can be a little bit more prepared into being able to ask questions? I mean, what appears to be an issue or issues,
sure,
as noted there on that sheet, and if we can address those 3 or 4 issues by using these various documents, terrific. So,
yeah, I would.
your call, Mr. Chair, as to how you want to proceed.
I think that at minimum, submit the documents electronically. It could be separate PDFs or in one, but I would think, we'll have to make copies to allow parties to come in and physically, get them if they'd like. At that point, I think that's when people can object. If I remember correctly from previous conditional use hearings, you have to give people the chance to object if someone wants to move something into evidence.
Well, let's do this for right now. Mr. Hunter, you move your exhibits at this point? Move into evidence the exhibits that you've just referenced in your testimony?
I'll move those evidence.
All right, so now we'll hold off then any objections until they can be reviewed, and someone can then raise an objection if they wish, and then you will make a ruling as to whether that objection is proper or not.
Right, and then I think, for transparency's sake, the few things that are already in the public record, I think, should be made available online. The planning commission reviews, things like of that nature, the maps, but, as this presentation, but all the documents incorporated by reference, I think has to be,
Well,
give everyone the chance to look at those
in
first.
looking at the list, Mr. Hunter has been relatively thorough in
Right.
providing all the documents, the background documents in addition to the current items. But again, in fairness to the individuals who have been given party status,
Right.
they need to look at those
Sure.
before they can ask any questions about them. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much we can do this evening. I know we only work for a couple of hours. I can only work till 7:30 anyway
Right.
because of other commitments of mine. But,
Sure, no worries.
you tell me how you want to proceed at this point.
I mean, I think if you can submit them electronically and already publicly can make public and the rest is open to.
Well,
Sure,
we
I-
have introduced into the record today on behalf of the board, the advertising notices, the posting of the property. I don't think those are that critical for people to want to look at, but if they want to, they can. But Mr. Tressler's review letter of January 10 is important because that includes his initial comments of his November letter, plus now what the applicant has done, meet some of his requests. So that should be, made available.
Yeah, I would do that and the presentation, and I think the other.
I don't know how current a map is. I was looking at the map that I have here, but this map doesn't have the revisions as per Mr. Tressler's review letter. And I don't know how critical it is for me, but, that should also be available for
Yeah.
to look at, so.
So I think that's agreeable, but otherwise we're going to have another session and give people time to review the rest of those documents.
Well, that being said, do you want to consider recessing for this evening and setting up another date now? So we know moving forward when that other
Right.
date is. Remember, all the hearings have to be done within 60 days of today. Now, I don't think you're gonna need more than another hearing, maybe two. I could be wrong. I'm not sure how many questions.
In my hands.
Plus you have.
An application. There's more things to-
If you're not speaking right now, if you're not called upon to speak,
Yeah,
please mute
fuzzy.
yourself.
Oh, that's my beard. Everybody has little white fuzzies.
Samuel, you need to mute yourself, Samuel.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We have said since March of the year that the third amendment to the SDS is part of the discussion. How is that being addressed? We had not had responses up until now.
Well, again, if you want to.
We can't decide.
Yeah, well, okay, I understand that you can't decide, and that's why the board is gonna have to make that call. If you say black and they say white, well, the board's gonna have to determine, is it black, white, or is it gray? That's what they're charged to do. They sit as judges in this matter, and that decision may be not helpful to you or helpful to you, not helpful to the other side or helpful to the other side. But if that Third Amendment is something that needs to be addressed, isn't that in that list of changes? So, again, whether, because the board, as a member here of this proceeding, can say, for example, we don't think the settlement agreement applies to this particular project or this aspect. I don't know if that's what they say, but they have that ability to say that. And then the question becomes, okay, if they say that, now is that a violation of the settlement agreement? Where they're a party, supposed to be agreed upon by the parties, supposed to have court approval of it. So they may make a decision and say, okay, this is what we do, what we suggest, or what we, but the court has to approve it. Maybe they can somehow, split that difference in some fashion. But we don't have enough facts in front of us right now to make that call, so. So that being said, Jacob,
Ron, I
Mr. Pride, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Do for a new meeting date?
Well, I would suggest the first question would be your availability as solicitor
Well, I generally try to work around my schedule. I mean, again, representing 10 different municipal entities, I'm always all over the place. But tell me what date you're thinking, and then I can tell you pretty much right now.
But we have a meeting, scheduled for February 9th at 4 PM. Perhaps we could reconvene then.
All right, hold on for a second. Let me see, when is February 9th?
It's a Wednesday.
Okay. 1, 2.
Does that have a significant agenda already that would create a conflict for everybody?
No. Just like with some other hearings, we would probably take this first. The only reason we did today at 5 PM was to accommodate those that suggested that earlier time. But I think based on what we've been doing, I think 4 PM would be fine.
So roughly 30 days.
What about the people that work, that can't make it?
For a later time.
Almost everyone works at 4 o'clock. Just pushing us right out of the picture. We are the township.
With all due respect, I'm not looking for a specific
You
time.
work for us. We pay your check.
With all due respect, I'm well aware of that. With all due respect.
Why is it that just, we have trouble with the township supervisors can't get along? That's not helping matters any.
All right, hold on here. Let
That's
me,
the whole picture, isn't it?
all right, excuse me, no, this is gonna be on the record. Let me be clear. Dissension among the board is not something that's at hand here. We don't always agree, but that's a democracy. Now, I'm going to say this, because it's important. I'm not suggesting, 4 PM to get anybody out of the picture. We may even do 5, we may even do 6. What I am suggesting, I'm just looking, for the availability of the professionals and elected officials that are here, because without them, we don't have a quorum or can't transact business. The other thing that is important is, regardless of what time it starts at, we are being transparent because we are Zooming this. This is archived, this is streamed live. People can watch on YouTube, people can join on Zoom, people can call in. So we're doing everything that we can here in the interest of transparency, including making these documents that we've just talked about public, so people have the chance to review them for the next meeting. And the people that have party status are going to get access to the other documents that they can contest. So I'm going to say that here. I understand that, we've all been elected by the people in this room and the other residents of, this township, and that's important. I'm not going to entertain that. That doesn't exist.
We're attempting to schedule a meeting. We're gonna have comments like that, I'm gonna shut it down right now and be over. Okay?
Come on, man, please, just chill.
All right,
All
Tim.
right, what date are we looking at? You say the 9th for me, I'm available the 9th.
February 9th.
February 9, I am available.
So it is a Wednesday, it's the second Wednesday. Mr. Chairman, so you are aware, already on that agenda, we have the land bank presentation. The board is scheduled to discuss possible uses for the ARPA fund, as well as radios concerning the fire company. So starting this at 4 may not be the best idea. We
can start the other items, we can start at 5 o'clock. I would be fine with that. I think that we won't have any intermission with that agenda. Go ahead, Tim.
So, just to be, sorry, quick up. Go back, previous meetings, actually when this all started, the meetings typically started at 7, so people could come home, have dinner, and then come to the meeting, instead of having to miss work, or, I was curious as to why 4 or 5, they're the only times that are being mentioned. Why couldn't, was there an actual reason that we couldn't have the meeting at 7 or at 6? It would be much better for people that work, which I'm gonna say is pretty much everybody in this room. So I don't understand, maybe you can clarify why it's gotta be 4 or 5, and not where it always used to be, and it should be 7.
Right. Well, historically, the board has had different meetings on Wednesdays that were at 4, occasionally for public hearings that would run a couple hours like this. So that had been, something, I think there's another attorney in this room that can attest to having attended many of those. But I think that, you know, well, yeah, certainly Charlie, but not to name names, I just meant generally speaking, we've had longer public hearings happen at 4 o'clock, but, you know, I think, you know, 5 is fine. I probably wouldn't want to start later than 6, just because these are going to run long, and, you know, we all have families and obligations that we have to handle.
Pretty important stuff. I'm wondering if we might be able to all agree that 6 would be better.
Well, if 6 is what works.
Why don't we just see a show of hands? What hour, so we know?
Excuse me, no one's going to be denigrated over their schedules.
Yeah, please, be honest. Time works on that.
Some people might prefer earlier, some people later, we don't know.
I think the 6 works for you on February 9th.
Anything works for me, but, you know, usually our meetings are at 7, we could maybe do it at
Half are at 7.
We can't do our own meeting, that's, 6 would probably go, or we could do our meeting, we gotta do ours at 4, right?
Yes,
Well,
we will already be here for our 4 p.m. regular meeting that day.
Well, back at 7. I think it's a question of how many people are inconvenienced one way or another, we don't know. A lot of people would rather be here earlier, I'm sure.
6 sounds fine to me. Does that work for you, Brian?
Yes.
I think we'll all be, you know, continuously running from 4 o'clock on, that day. Brian, does 6 p.m. work for you, after our regular meeting on Wednesday, February 9th?
That'll work for me.
Okay. So, that said,
If that's, Steve,
do I
you can have
hear,
a motion.
yeah, do I hear a motion to recess but leave open this hearing until February 9th at 6 p.m.?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Barrett. Do I hear a second? Second by myself. Any questions? All in favor?
Everybody came here tonight to get questions answered, and we didn't get one of them answered.
With all due respect, the hearing is still open. My questions weren't answered either. This is not designed to inconvenience any individual. This is just the way the time falls sometimes. There's a couple of supervisors in this room, former and current, and I think they can attest to that. And
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to let everyone know that they are following the process, and when they went through the process the last time, there were several, one for one.
correct.
Okay, so my only other question or comment would be, put on asking letter at the next meeting, correct?
Sure.
I'm fine with that, I just want to make sure that.
You will have every right to, and we'll make it public the same way. I mean, if
You need to make sure that the parties know how to access the documents when, they are sent.
right,
If in fact they're sent electronically and they provide you an email address,
right,
then I would suggest you just send them to them electronically.
there will be.
There's no reason to copy this much paper.
There will be
Just send
email
electronic.
addresses, and if someone really wants a physical copy, we'll do our best to accommodate. That said, the underlying, the motion on the floor is to recess until February 9th at 6 p.m., and we've now taken comment. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, now you're still in the meeting again, so now is there anything else for the meeting, or do you want to simply entertain a motion to close the meeting now?
We still need to ask some public comment within our regular meeting then.
Hi, this is Ann Leege. Can you hear me?
Hold on one second, Ann. Public comment
Okay.
at the beginning of the agenda. Public comment on what things were included or not included. We can entertain public comment for about the next 8 minutes if there's
All right, well, we can do that.
anything further.
10, 15 minutes, I suppose. If anyone has any public comment, they certainly can make it.
This is Ann. Can you hear me? I don't really have a comment. I'm just want to put this out there that you may want to think about a larger venue. Those of us on Zoom, I think, missed a lot of the presentation. And so I'm thinking that next time I may attend in person, and maybe there are others who are thinking the same way.
Okay, thank you. Martha?
Just for history, like back when we were having these meetings before, they did it in front of the school gymnasium.
Okay. Okay. All right, anything else?
Hello, this is Crispin Fernandez. Can you hear me?
I just want to make sure.
Hello, this is Crispin Fernandez. Can you hear me?
Oh, hold on one moment. We have someone in the room that's making comment. Then we'll
sorry.
call on you next.
So, for my math's sake, the owners here, Tom Anderson, Ted Hunter, I have 3 deeds for them that I could sign that equal 150 acres. So your proposal, doing the math, of 102.5 acres times the 550 for the United States of America, and your 150, can I find deeds that are remaining valid under whose name?
It's under company name.
You know how many?
There's
Could I get those names?
Shawnee Stage 4,
I have that. That is 150.
Shawnee Stage 4, Shawnee Stage 1.
I have that. And some more.
Yeah.
Those are only equal 150 acres.
Yeah, that's not correct.
I have a deed.
Well, one of them is 99, one of them is 105, and one of them is,
Okay, so that equals, okay, so
there's over 300
I
acres.
thought I had made a mistake on that, but that's, yes, 300. So where is the 156? So 150.
All right.
Ma'am,
do you mind doing this?
Comment, not a question and answer period. Do you have a comment? No, it's a comment. Do you have a comment? You can ask questions later, but not now.
I can answer a question later.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. But if anyone has any final comments on the meeting, the previous commentator on Zoom, if you want to make your comment.
Yes, this is Crispin Fernandez. Is it possible to upload all these documents onto the township website for public access? That's my first question. And the other one is, there was a reference to a 50-day period, counting today as day 1. Does that mean that on February 9th, 30 days would have lapsed, and we have 20 days left?
Yes. That would be correct. So he asked, the first question was whether or not the documents would be uploaded to the township website. The answer to that, as I stated previous in the meeting, is yes, the documents that are so far public will be. The others that will be subject to review by the parties will be made after they are formally accepted into the record. And the second was whether or not 30 days will have lapsed in this time period, if there's in the 60-day period required by our zoning ordinance. And the answer is yes.
Would be yes. Now, of course, the applicant could always extend if he or she wishes, but he does not have to. The point being is that the township can't drag its feet on these matters if it must keep them moving.
Correct. Okay. Any final comment before I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim, second by Mr. Barrett. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned at 7:26.
Hours. Start a meeting. That's what they wanted.